Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Frostie and Flake show. My name is Frosty, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Flake.
Wow.
Flake, what's going on, buddy?
How much every week there's like a new little spice that you add to the introduction, and this one was probably my favorite so far in my vain and selfish ways. But
I know how
thank
to
you.
I know how to treat my co-host correctly.
No shit. That was a beautiful entrance into the show. This is episode what, 5, 6? I'm
I,
not
I think it's 5. We're gonna go with
okay.
5. Eventually,
Okay.
we're gonna
So
lose track.
yeah, this would put it in the Empire Strikes Back territory, which is good
Ooh,
territory to be in.
a good one.
Yeah, it's a very controversial, more dark movie, but still regarded as probably the best of the Star Wars movies. So this is we have some high standards that we need to live up to here.
Well, hopefully, we can live up to that hype. Oh, so what have you been doing, my man? It's been a week since we
Yep,
last spoke. Uh,
yep. So what have I been doing? Well, I have been grinding Gwent at a very high clip. Essentially, I am leaving for Poland on Tuesday to go and cast Gwent Challenger 5 in Warsaw. So I figured it's probably in my best interest to, slam down with a little bit of what's the word legitimacy, a little bit of clout when you're talking
sure.
about the card game. So I figured I'd go ahead and see if I can get to pro rank, which if you're not familiar with Gwent is similar to legend, which is in Hearthstone, or mythic
Correct.
in Magic. So I did so pretty quickly. I did it in about 2 or 3 days. I got with a record of 56, 13, and 1. I slammed through, and now we're sort of placed on the global ladder, which is again like Mythic, like Legend.
Sure,
You get
you're
you
now
get
in
a record.
Elo, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And last I checked, I was, I believe, 400th or so
Nice.
in the worlds. So when we get to Challenger, the goal is to be one of the best players in the world, so that I can, look at Twitch chat right in the eye and say, 200 IQ, go f yourself, but not
Yeah.
in those specific words. What about you? What have you been up to?
This week has been all Brawl. For those who are not familiar with Brawl, Brawl is a new format coming to Magic the Gathering Arena, similar to EDH, where it's standard only though. Singleton, you have a commander or a general, and it's just a game of Magic straight up. But because of the commander and kind of how that mechanic works, games play out very oddly sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, right now we only have the precons on Arena. I believe they're there for the next, I don't know, like 4 days, 5 days. I'm not sure when I think it goes away next Thursday.
Hmm.
Um, but the precons are built in varying power levels. I think like 2 out of the 4 are much better than the other two. The Esper one and the Bant one have significantly more like synergy in them than the other two. But there have been times playing against the Mardu deck where they just land a knight, like slam a bunch of equipment on it, and I now have a 2010. Like, there you go.
Standard
Uh,
procedure, no problems
yeah.
there. Yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun, and it's kind of reignited a little bit of love for jumping on every night, going into arena and playing Magic. Because towards the end of a standard season, you're just like, get me out of here. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to jump and grind on ladder for another 2 weeks.
It's definitely kind of a soul piercing experience when you're there and you just see the first land drop and you're like, I know exactly what this is. And
I'll
I
let
know
Fountain go. Like, all right, here we go.
yeah, you're like, mother of God. Like, so
Yeah.
and like you said, you've been playing the brawl format, and again, we're only kind of locked into the precons, but they're not bad
Yes.
precons. And the cool part about it
No.
is that we get to feature some of the Eldraine cards, right?
Yes, that was kind of the point of Arena bringing Brawl on early, was we got to play with Throne of Eldraine cards. Throne of Eldraine, for those who don't know, is the next set coming from Magic the Gathering. I believe it releases October 4th, if I'm not mistaken. Or
I
maybe
think
it's
there's
earlier
like,
than that.
yeah, there's some like preview events I believe are occurring usually, I think at the end, like the 26th or 27th or something
Okay.
like that. I mean, like, I'm just going by what my LGS has sort of displayed, where it's like, hey,
Gotcha.
show up on this weekend for a preview event. So I'm assuming that's when the preview event happens, where you get your sealed packs and you go crazy, and then you show up the next week.
Yeah,
start drafting.
and with Throne of Eldraine is going to be, of course, rotation. For Magic
Woo!
rotation. Yeah, everybody's like, all right. And I know you've been asking on Twitter, like, what cards people are most excited about, like, leaving, what people are sad about leaving. What's been, like, the number one people happy to be leaving Magic and sad to be leaving Magic that you were able to see from your questioning?
Well, now here's a perfect time to plug my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Flake Media, because there are 2 videos up there where I actually polled my like Twitter accounts, some Discord channels, and Reddit, asking about what the top 5 cards that people are happy to see go and the ones that they'll miss. Happy to see go was hands down a Nexus Fest of people just saying no thank you, like not interested.
Yeah.
And what's surprising to me is that about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, it would have been Teferi by leaps and bounds. Teferi was persona non grata for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's not that people still don't like him. It's just the fact that there's a new, more oppressive version of the card that they've kind of shifted their crosshairs to a new Teferi, a new, younger, stronger Teferi. So they hate that more. But the cards that people were glad to see go were Nexus, Teferi. I'm totally spoiling all of it now, so maybe I just won't say.
No, I was just wanting number one, and number one.
Okay, so Nexus was number 1.
Okay.
And the number 1 card that people were, I don't think I enumerated them in terms of most prominently happy to see go, but Llanowar Elf was one that people were
gonna
miss. We're not gonna miss. I just ruined the other one. One card that people were sad to see go was my goodness, Shalai was one of them.
Okay.
People were going to miss Shalai. And I think Curious Obsession was one that some people were not very happy to see rotate out. Again, this one was, when you're asking people what you're happy to see leave, it's a much more...
It's super subjective. Just like...
It's always going to be a subjective thing, but there was a much more... there's a much broader consensus on happy to see go versus happy to or sad to see go.
Gotcha.
Like when I asked, a lot of, like, Llanowar Elf was one where people were like, no, it can't go, and other people were like, good riddance, get the F out of here. So
I'm definitely on the good riddance, get the F out of here. And then, of course, we have now the Gilded Goose, so fuck it.
Yeah,
just have to deal with another turn 1 mana rock creature. All right. Anyway. But yeah, if you guys want to see, for those watching and listening, want to see the rest of those lists, be sure to check out Flake's YouTube channel for that. But with rotation comes a wonderful thing, and this is we're gonna jump right to it because we were gonna discuss this last week. So ran out of time, and it's a massive. I don't know, it's elephant in the room, I guess, is what you would call it.
Yes.
Historic, and the historic format, and everything that comes with it. Of course, early last week, an article went up that the historic format was going to be slightly changing, and we were going to be getting some new features with it, along with all this other stuff that they were adding, and we'll kind of go through it one by one. And I want to get your thoughts on this. As somebody who's not, I don't want to say like not fully ingrained in Magic, because you are, but who is more new, I guess, to Magic than maybe some of the other people who have like attachments to these cards that may be added. So the first thing coming up is Historic will have its own rank and ranked ladder and events. So they didn't really say whether or not like it's going to add into your constructed ranking that I saw. So whether or not you're playing standard or historic, do they both go towards the constructed ranking?
Right. It's like best of 1, best of 3, no matter what, it's still one ranking that you're playing towards, right? Yeah.
So I don't think they clarified that. And I feel like it should be separate because in Hearthstone, of course, there's Wild. Now Gwent doesn't have a rotated format, right?
Not yet. No, they've only released 2 expansions alongside their core set. They have another one coming down the pipe, which we're going to hear about next week, at least in terms of some theme or something along those lines. But there's just not enough cards to warrant any type of any type of standard rotation. And I mean, if we look at Hearthstone, Hearthstone took about 2 or 3 years before they kicked in a rotation. Is that not? I mean,
Oh, it was a while.
yeah, it was like they had released Old Gods. They had released, wasn't it until Kobolds and Catacombs or something that they enabled the rotation, and then they retired cards as well. I don't know the exact timeline because I was, my goodness,
I think it was around Old Gods.
It might have been around Old Gods. It definitely was around Old Gods, but I think I do remember playing Old Gods with the entire collection. You know, with goblins and gnomes and that entire rotation as well.
Right.
But yeah, they still have a ways to go before they implement any type of standard versus historic.
Yeah, and one of the other card games that I kind of still keep an eye on is Eternal. They're now on spoiling set 5 or 6. I think it's 5. And they've yet to hit a rotation. Or it's set 7 as GT, my mod. He is fully ingrained in that that game, so he keeps me up to date. So they're showing set 7 right now. And they've still yet to reach a rotation. So it's one of those things that it's kind of whenever the game feels that it's necessary, like, okay, we've reached kind of a mass amount of cards that we can have. Let's start rotate out these sets, bring in new ones. But Magic's had this obviously for the past 20 something years, and rotation's always a thing that in paper it's been, well, all right, I'll sell off my old cards and I'll buy the new ones. Or you have other formats like Modern, Legacy, you have EDH, there's Cube, there's all sorts of like different ways that's not in a tournament to play with those cards. Arena doesn't have that. And we've gone through one rotation with Arena already. That was last year while we were still in beta. We were going from closed beta to open beta with rotation. And they basically said, okay, these cards are being rotated out. We're going to remove them from the game entirely. We will refund you essentially all the money that you've spent up till now. We're wiping collections completely. And everybody was kind of okay with that, everybody was okay with, yeah, okay, collections are getting wiped, and we're getting a refund of everything. Now we're going, okay, rotation's happening. We're not going to wipe collections anymore. We are going from open beta into release, as was just announced. Did you see that during the Throne of Eldraine announcement?
What was it again? First of all, the announcement was awesome.
It was. If you have not seen that trailer,
it is spectacular. But yeah, go ahead, go on.
But anyway, they announced during this whole thing where they were showing off some cards, they were announcing some things, announcing the next year's worth of Magic sets. That on September 26th, Arena is going full retail. It's live. We are no longer a beta platform. I don't know if that's good.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's just what does that really indicate? Because there are games that go from beta to full and then are really, they've been hot out of the box in beta and haven't really switched much or changed much. Then there's games like Gwent, which went to full mode and are still changing things up until this past week, where they have significantly made changes to the cards and the mechanics and such. So is it a good thing for Magic to go into full-fledged form?
The way I see like going from beta to release is not in terms of like your game mechanics being locked down or, cards being fully balanced or anything like that. I'm talking like features. Like just whatever features that your software has, you will no longer be adding any. Like quickly, I guess I should say. Not that you won't
Yeah.
ever add any, but your priorities are done. Your software has reached 1.0. Here you go. We don't have a friends list. We don't have a way to spectate.
Hmm.
There's no like tournament infrastructure. There is like nothing in the software that kind of supports any of that or any sort of communication that's ever coming. And I think that's, to me, that was like a wait a minute, we're going release. Like, what's going on? Well,
So, well, and you're right in that regard. Of it's kind of might be premature, especially when there might be a lot of elements that are still left to be desired. Like, how can you call it the full version when in reality there's giant chunks of the software that other programs have no problem, and even in beta they've had them, and suddenly you're saying that this is the version, but you don't have a lot of the basics. Like, it's not a matter of spinning rims and like flashing lights and whatever. That's
right.
not what it is. It's literally just like the very bare essentials of salt and pepper in the cupboard. Like friends list, spectator mode, things like that. I mean, Gwent does not have a spectator mode either, but
You
they
have a friends
are.
list.
We have there's a perfectly good friends list, but there is a spectator mode that has been developed and shown off to the player base already. There's no timeline for release, but it's in development and it's coming. In terms of, for instance, Mythgard already has a friends list. It has a guilds. Like, you
Yes.
can actually create guilds and groups, and you can follow players on that. You don't have to be friends with them, but you can follow them and follow their rankings. That is already integrated, and they already have a 2v2 and a tournament system on the way, which is very interesting.
Exactly.
But like you said, Magic coming out of the box and saying, well, we don't have a spectator mode. We don't have a friends list. We know that you want that stuff, but we're going to work on other things too. Now, it all comes down to prioritization of what is more important. Is a friends list more important than Brawl or Historic? I mean, you can argue both ways, because some people who are fed up with standard, let's say, and can't necessarily afford to go into limited all the time, they might be more interested in new formats that they can play, versus those who are having a good time might want more of the social elements to it as well. But I mean, you're right. You are lacking a lot of you have the meat now. Where's the potatoes?
It
That's kind
is,
of part of it.
and it comes down to this. Arena is missing the gathering part of Magic the Gathering. Like,
Right.
the whole point of it is the social aspects of it. And yeah, I can jump on and I can grind ladder all day and talk to myself, or I have friends over, or I'm streaming or whatever. But yeah, like just having a friends list or having a group of people that you play with. Discord integration is great, but like just why is it not in the software? It's definitely been a big, like, what the fuck kind of thing for me personally, about Arena. But with rotation coming up and historic coming up, there's some bigger what the fucks, I think, from a majority of people. And it's this whole, essentially creating a curated modern form. Now, have you ever played modern before?
I have not actually. I played my first game of Modern this past weekend, a week ago exactly today. I was waiting to do drafts, and someone that was there, who I had seen at the LGS multiple times, asked me if I had any standard decks with me. I said no, I didn't bring any, unfortunately. And he said, "Oh well, do you have any Modern? Because I brought a few." I said, "I don't, but if you have one to lend me, I'll play against you." So I played my first ever Modern with Hex Drinker. What's that? Green dude that you can level up. Is it Hex Drinker? It's something
Green
like
dude
that.
you
It's a
can
little.
level up.
It's a one cost green creature that comes down onto the board, and you could pay at sorcery speed. You can pay 1 mana to level it up. At levels 3 through 7, it has hexproof from instance, and then from levels and it's like a 4/4, and if you level up to level 8, either way, it's definitely a card. It
Sure.
exists. I forgot the name of it, but
It's like, I know
I played
level up is a mechanic.
yeah. And I think at level 7 or 8, it becomes a 7/7 with protection from everything, which is crazy.
Gotcha.
So either way, I played and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that is what I did for my first ever Modern. So I
Okay.
am familiar with the format.
Sure. So basically, in this announcement last week about historic, Wizards said that they will be adding cards from the history of Magic the Gathering, with no set restrictions, no rarity restrictions, no reprint policy restrictions, um, into Arena specifically to either change the meta in the format to create more archetypes or more fun. And they're going to be doing this, I think they said 4 times a year, every quarter. And the first set coming in, I think they said it's going to be 20 cards, 15 to 20 cards.
Okay.
And the
So
cards,
that's 3 to 4 per color, essentially.
right?
Yeah.
If they even want to do that, like they might not. They might say like, "Oh, red is too strong. We're not going to add in any, red cards, or anything like that."
Mhm.
And then they posted some examples onto Twitter, and they got a like good response and a lot of bad response. The cards that they listed were Brainstorm, Morm Coil
Yep.
Engine, Dark Confidant, and I forget the fourth card they listed. But like Brainstorm, like adding in a Brainstorm, you basically say, all right, screw it. Like no other 1 blue sorcerer speed cantrip's ever gonna like be good in Historic.
Right.
So there's no point in even playing Opt or bothering with it. Like you have Brainstorm. you know, um, Brainstorm, for those that don't know, is 1 blue instant speed, draw 3, put 2 back. Um, and then was it Lightning Bolt? I think Lightning Bolt may have been the fourth card that they talked about. But there's an issue with this. As much as I would love to play with those cards on Arena, um, they make design space further on down the road very small. So, like, if they add in Dark Confidant, if you are playing a deck that wants like a Dark Confidant style effect, or any sort of you know little aggro deck playing Dark Confidant, like there's no other better 2-drop than you have than Bob. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird situation of like you want to add these cards in, but you may screw up like standard things down the road. Not that they're gonna go into standard, but like that cards that are printed in standard will not even be played in historic.
Right. And I mean, but that has always been, from what I understand, when it comes down to when I first joined into Magic and they're talking about cards and this and that, there was a part of the conversation when new cards would be announced that I wasn't necessarily very attuned to. And when I would talk to people who would be very well versed in Magic, who had been played for years and years and years, and whenever a new card would be announced, I'd be like, "Hey, check how badass this card is." He's like, "Yeah, but it won't see any modern play,
Right.
so it's not that great." I'm like, "Yeah, but," and then I sort of had to put myself in that mindset of how things trickle out of standard and how viable are they otherwise. So in your case, I mean, people who might actually just be in the game playing historic, they might not be investing as much into standard because they might just be a little bit more inclined to just go ahead and pick and choose cards they want and
Right.
get the ones they want to play that. So that's an interesting element to the entire valuation of cards now moving forward, even from a digital perspective, is now that historic is going to be introducing these quarterly packages of cards like this is like Magic's version of Naxxramas, right?
Pretty much,
Where
yeah.
which is kind of interesting in itself because Naxxramas,
Broke
when
everything.
those or but like when those cards dropped, they were all really, or for the most part, really freaking good cards from Sludge Belcher or my god.
Undertaker ruled
Oh yeah,
Hearthstone
well,
for years.
yeah, and it got a fat nerf afterwards. But beside, what was the it was the 5-drop legendary that makes
Oh,
your
Lotheb.
Lotheb.
Yeah.
These were all fantastic cards that fit into so many different archetypes, but the fact remained in that regard. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it if you're actually buying packs or buying the whole bundle. It might be worth it in that regard for certain players. But I remember the $20 that you'd slam down to buy Naxxramas was well worth it because there
Yeah.
was probably about 50+% of those cards would slot into your deck and really take over into overdrive. But I mean, it's more so I find the fact that these cards are gonna weasel their way into historic meta, making a lot of other cards less valuable and less important. And then what happens then? Like it seems like there might be a schism of players who will have to choose: do I play historic and invest into this, or do I play standard and not give a crap about historic?
Right, and
So
this point of like we're going to be adding in these cards from history, is kind of like a linchpin for this whole issue that could possibly happen, where um is historic destined to fail because they're going to be like, well, I can't spend all my wild cards crafting, these 20 basically must have cards for historic.
mhm.
um or do I just continue playing standard? It's funny you brought up, you could just spend the $20 on Naxxramas and you get all the cards. In their announcement, they said you cannot buy packs of historic cards. You will only be able to buy a 45 pack bundle or something like that.
Oh god,
Um,
so it's like a
it's a
feast or famine
bundle.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you
Yeah.
only get the bundle, and they won't sell it any other way. Um, I don't I don't know if is that going to be like right off the bat where you're just going to be buying packs of, like, literally they're going to be called historic packs, and they're going to contain the spectrum of historic cards, including what just rotated out of standard. Are those also going to have duplicate protection on them? Like,
Yeah,
there's
that's weird.
there's a ton of questions up about that. And then the biggest backlash that they got, which um I think they're going to change almost immediately, is the 2-for-1,
Mhm.
where you if a card has rotated into historic, you must spend 2 times the wild cards in order to craft that card. So imagine going to Hearthstone, going, I want to play Lotheb in wild. It's going to cost you 3,200 dust to craft Lotheb rather than the 1,600, just because it's an old card.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't know if the argument is, well, modern's more expensive than standard, so of course, historic's going to be more expensive than standard. I don't buy that argument at all.
well, no, because in that case you're looking at actual supply versus demand. This is there's an actual physical card and a supply
Right.
that you can go out and get. People can corner that market and manipulate that market of supply versus demand, because if you want to play a popular deck, obviously, or if there's a strong deck that exists, obviously the cards pertaining to the skeleton of that deck will then be in high demand. There'll be less of them available, prices will go up. This is all digitized. It's not
Right.
like there's an actual supply of it. It is literally an algorithm that generates the card to appear. Now, just to touch upon what you're talking about and the PAX situation, and
Mm.
and I don't think that they clarified on it. Like, is anybody legitimately going to go and throw down enough gems to buy 45 packs of Ixalan if they just want some historic, you know, uh, uh, help? I would be much more inclined if they sold them almost as like fat packs or something like that, where here is a 30 card pack spanning this block. Like, this is these 3 sets or these 4 sets. Here's a 30 card block. It gets 2 rares, 6 uncommons or 7 uncommons, and the rest are commons, and you might have a mythic or whatever. And it just seems a little bit um like, I hate to use the term greedy, because businesses all over the world are inherently greedy. That's
Of
what their
course.
objective is. Their objective is to spend as little as possible, making as much as possible, while keeping the
Correct.
the money spending populace still on their side. However, I think that they've danced the line a little bit too close this time, where they're actually they're doubling the price on things that don't exactly have much value. And I
It
mean,
it seems tone
yeah.
deaf.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it seems like they're so I've thought about this a lot, and I this is what I honestly think is happening. I think people are spending less and less money on standard as standard goes on. Take me for example. I haven't really spent a lot of, well, I've spent money, but in the past 2 sets, I haven't bought as much of it as I would have due to duplicate protection, the pool of wild cards that I have, and the gold that I build up by not drafting and just playing in events and playing on ladder. So because of that, uh, there is this trend of myself going forward where I basically drain out my gold for the next set. Duplicate protection kicks in. I get a majority of the set, probably around 80 to 85% of it. And then use whatever wild cards I've gotten to finish out that set. Now I have a whole set at day 1 of a set release. And from there forward, as I get packs, those packs contain gems or wild cards, right? Because that's their new thing now. Is if you've collected all of a whole set, we give you gems back. Now it's like a quarter. I think it's like 20 gems for a rare and 40 gems for a mythic, but it's still, it's money back on your account. And you get, what is it, 5 packs per week?
Yeah, it's approximately
Somewhere
that.
around there?
You could get lucky and high roll every single day into a 750 gold quest.
Sure.
But yeah, it equates to about 5 to 7 packs a week.
So now over the next 3 months before the next set comes out, I don't spend any money. Except on cosmetics that I want, of course.
Yeah.
I like my shinies. You've seen my account.
You're like the Scrooge of MTGA. You've got this pile of gems and gold, and it's insane. And I thought that Adamant used to have the biggest pile of. He's got a crap ton of gems. He's got like tens of thousands.
Does he?
Of gems, sort of. You're the gold sort of Scrooge McDuck, just literally.
I think I'm sitting at 110,000 gold right now.
Oh, I think it's even higher than that unless you spent some. I saw you were like a 117 or something like that. I watch. I'm like your like silent accountant, just looking and just seeing how that goes. That said, I totally agree that don't say this too loudly, because you do not want them to tone down the rate in which they're dropping free resources on you.
Sure.
Like the fact that you have this gigantic sort of doomsday vault full of gold coins that you can retire off of, that's cool and all, but we can't let Magic learn about that, because it might be a 3-to-1 wildcard ratio when they find out about your hoarding.
And then add on top of that, due to duplicate openings of everything, I have like 12 vaults that I haven't opened.
Oh Jesus, I didn't even look at those.
Like, so there's this almost way to quote unquote game the system where you play enough, you generate enough, and you spend less and less as sets come out. Of course, Wizards has this data. They know this. And there has to be some sort of trend that people are spending less and less on packs, and they're earning more and more wildcards due to duplicate protection. Because as you've probably seen it, and most Magic players know it, a set 300 cards, right? Maybe 20 of them are playable. Maybe. Like, there's going to be a handful of them that are meta-defining, talking Narset, Teferi, the lands, Knight of the Ebon hand, like, these cards that fit so well into these archetypes that are pretty much needed. Now, if all I do is I am mono red player number 1, that's all I love doing, I just want to burn people's faces off, SM Orc all day long, maybe there's 2 cards I need to craft from a set. And I've hoarded all these wild cards from all this free play ladder play, and okay, new set, Throne of Eldraine comes out, I'm gonna grab my 2 rares that I need, maybe a couple commons, maybe a land here or there, and cool, I'm done for this set. Now time to build up gold and wild cards for the next 3 months.
Right. I mean, that is a safe way to go. That is not a bad course of action if you are dead set on that path. Like, if you're the mono red player, sure, no problem. But you're right about it, because every set that comes out is either, 15% of it is for decks and such, and then the other 85 is usually just filler and limited fodder. Right. Now, one thing that I've noticed that occurs, and this is why I think that they're probably waiting still a little bit before, and I agree with you. I think they're going to revert the changes. I think that it's not going to be a 2-to-1 wildcard situation, because that is just, it seems almost shocking that they would actually even suggest that that's fair. But here's what I think is going down, and tinfoil hat on and everything. But I don't know if you remember and you probably do, back when new sets or standard rotations would occur or whatever, Hearthstone used to come out with these 1,000 gold events where it had these high, enormous ceilings of if you go 9-0, you win 50 packs and you
Yep.
win all this stuff. But if you don't, well, it's more so like it had a very, top heavy
Sure.
prize pool. Those always came out like a week or two before a major set release because they're designed to drain people of their in-game free resources so that they have to
Exactly.
spend money for that. This might be the same thing with wildcards, wherein
Yes.
Wizards is like, okay, 2-1, and all these people who are like, crap, I want to play historic, but I held off on crafting all this stuff because I didn't know I don't think it was going to be playable because of rotation. So I'm missing these I'm missing these check lands from Ixalan, missing
Yep.
these ones from Dominaria. I don't have, these vampires, but I think vampires is going to be good in historic. So maybe I just crap out these before I have to spend 2-1 for them because they're still
Yes.
standard right now. So it might just be literally sort of a little bit of an alarm bell that they're ringing to say, spend your wild cards now, motherfuckers, because they're going to be 2-for-1 later. That could possibly be, part of it is just to put a little bit of panic into the system in order for, if 2% of the people just go out there and spend wild cards because they're afraid of the rotation, that's still 2% more than 2% of the millions of players who are going to have to be spending more money on cards later on.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you that is the point of this. Is there is a because they have ways of draining the gold economy, right? We have the metagame challenge. There's draft. There's all these different events that go off. I don't think there is a trend of people just kind of hoarding gold and not really using it.
Mhm.
But there's no way to drain wildcards outside of set releases, and set releases are determined obviously by the sets. Like we can't just
Right.
there's no like random middle of February like hi here's like 5 cards. Like they don't do that.
No.
Whereas Hearthstone can go, oh, here's an adventure. Every now and then Eternal releases a campaign with like 10 cards in it. Like, oh, here's 10 cards. One of them's actually good. The rest are shit. There's ways of doing it, but Magic just doesn't have that. And I think the 2-for-1 thing was built upon that. We need to drain the wildcard economy. We need people to use it in some way. So first one up was we're gonna add in cards into historic. These are cards that you're gonna want to craft because if you're gonna play historic at all, you're gonna need these, right? Things like Brainstorm, Dark Confidant, Wormcoil, shit like that. New set releases is gonna drain a little bit of the wild cards, but not enough. And the people who play standard and are not gonna give a shit about historic, well, the 10 cards that you add in every year or every 3 months, I'm not gonna care. I'm just gonna continue playing and wait for the next set in 3 months.
Mhm.
So I'm sure there was a lot of discussion there of how do we get rid of wild cards from players? How do we make historic have a higher barrier of entry? Like, and not in a bad way. Like a barrier to entry is not a bad thing. You want people who want to actually play it to jump into it. And I'm trying to like piece this word salad together, but basically, if you're a new player to Magic, I'm not gonna toss you, Esper Hero and go, well, here you go, have fun. Like you're fucking not gonna know what to do. You're gonna
No.
not know what any of the cards do, and you're probably gonna like flip a table, get angry at something, and then walk out the door, and we're never gonna see you again. So they don't want historic to be a newbie trap essentially, where somebody jumps into arena. What's this historic? This looks cool. Like spend a bunch of wild cards and gold, and then that person then never comes back because they're like, "What the fuck? What is Nexus? I don't understand. Why?
Yeah.
I never got another turn. I don't understand what's going on." Then that player uninstalls arena and they're gone. So there
It's
has
gonna
to be
be.
something there.
I kind of am a little bit wary to say that people are going to avoid the format. You know, economy aside, if it's I 100% believe that people will avoid it but I don't think it's going to be in the mass droves that people think. Um, Mainly because if you're saying that there's going to be a ranked ladder towards it, this might be an easier entry into placements in tournaments and qualifiers by going into that, because the cards are already existing in people's pools. So if less and less people are in historic, and those that might actually be in historic are not well versed in those cards, if they're new or if they don't have complete collections, some people might actually just throw down on the bank necessary to make solid historic decks, because the route to mythic might be simpler, or once you're in mythic, the pool of people that you're competing with will be smaller, so your ability to maintain a top, I guess now 1200
Yes, 1200 now.
ranking, yeah, will be less contested by the mass pool of people who are out there. um I would like Arena to not be sort of blocked behind this paywall that is really going to make it difficult to maintain uh, a vast player base. And the thing about that is also that there's millions of people playing this. I guess, I mean, I would imagine there's millions of
I think it's
players.
like 3 million matches a day or something like that.
Yeah. So if there are 3 million matches a day, you could probably attest that to about maybe under 1 million players, or about 1 million. Because I mean, 1 million matches just means that there are 2 people on each side. So that's about 6 million. Let's say 6 million, individual people have matched
Sure.
up for a game. Of that, how many played 5 to 10 matches that one time? So we'll say there's 1 million people playing the game.
Okay.
Of those
Fair.
million people, if 10% of them are playing or historic, that's still 100,000 people, which is nothing to sort of shake a stick at when it comes down to it. So I still think that there's going to be a viable pool for it. I just wish that it wasn't so. I don't want it to be regarded as the place where, in modern, it's like, oh, that's where the money decks are. That's where, if you want to play that seriously. I just wish it wasn't that. It wouldn't carry that stigma with it, and I don't think it will, because I truly believe they're going to correct this. But
They
it's
will.
also, yeah, but they're going to wait till the last moment after people sort of panic buy or panic sell.
Yeah, so I want to rewind you back a little bit to where you said your path to Mythic would be easier if all you played was historic, right? Let me throw a business question at you. The person who currently playing now only plays historic because the path is now easier. How do you get money out of that person? They're done. They no longer provide a revenue stream to the game.
Right. What I mean in that regard is not necessarily that the path would be easier, because you're still competing against people in your skill tier.
Sure.
But I think that maintaining, once you hit Mythic, because I believe that anybody with the right cards and enough practice can hit Mythic. I don't think that it's that big of a deal to get there. But it's literally, to me, it's the top 1,000 that is the echelon that you need to aspire to be considered a really good Magic player, is to be in that top 1,000. In historic, I believe that maintaining a top 1,000 or placing top 1,000 in historic is not going to be as difficult as it would be in standard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, like keeping money off those people, I think that there might be a giant push to begin with, because again, when historic rolls around, a lot of people who've been playing for a while are probably going to have a lot of those cards. It's literally the quarterly drops that everybody's going to need to actually spend their stuff on. And figure if there's 20 cards per quarter, that's 40 wild cards. And again, what's the rarity? Are they all going to be considered rares?
They said that there will be no rarity restrictions, and that means Brainstorm's a common,
Okay. So whatever they choose. Now,
so whatever they choose.
Well, if they're smart, they're going to pick, if there's 20 cards, they're going to pick 5 commons, 5 uncommons, or I'm pretty sure they're going to top heavy these in terms of rarity, because they want impact cards. They don't want to just pull out,
they want high power cards. Like somebody in chat earlier said, like, it's a higher powered format. That's what they're aiming it to be.
Yeah.
Same thing with Brawl. Brawl is going to be a higher powered format because of the general effect and some of the cards that are Brawl specific. like the Signet, the 2 mana mana rock.
Mhm.
Like, when's the last time in a standard set you had a 2 mana mana rock?
Well, and when it comes to historic, I think that a lot of people are going to be more inclined to like it's weird because from a position of you and I where we have a vast collection,
Mhm.
it's not that big of a deal because we're going into the historic format with all those important cards already
Yep.
under our bank. So, historic as a format of existing cards, I think that Wizards of the Coast has already sort of considered that is that they're not going to make much money off that. They're going to make their money off of the wild cards conversion rate and off of the like the quarterly drops of 20 cards. Like, you know, I don't think people are going to buy historic packs, quote unquote. No one's going to go out there and buy a crap ton of Rivals of Ixalan. I think that they're gonna buy whatever is new and use the wild cards they get to craft what they need. Um, it just seems weird, and I understand that they're gonna have to make money. They're a company. They make so much money.
They do. They do, but I think I think all of this is kind of stemming from Arena has blown up in terms of player base, software, viewership. It's expanded so much over the past year and a half that we've kind of been able to show it off. Um, that there was another push from above of like, okay, here's your expected revenue number. Figure out a way to hit it. you know, and that sucks because it's not the devs that do this. It's not the community managers that do this. It's not the marketing people that do this. It's fucking executives. It's the same thing that happened to Hearthstone.
I remember when I used to work in like for an airline, and I worked in the communications team, and we were very privy to a lot of information because we needed to. Regardless, we were privy to a lot of the information within the company. So we'd have our weekly meetings where the director of communications would essentially talk to us about what's going on, and it was always sort of keep this hush hush, blah blah blah. But in case something comes up, this is the information. These are the talking points. This is how you handle it. Okay, cool, no problem. And to me, a lot of it, what I always figured, which was really hilarious, was every year the company, or the for the past 4 or 5 years that I'd worked there, the company reported record profits, and every following year they would the executive board would release a statement to all the departments saying that we need to cut costs. And the reasoning behind that, I found out, was because they would always promise their investors better profitability and more growth. And the way to do that, despite record profits, was, well, we're not suspecting any further growth in terms of business, so we need to create those numbers in another way, which is cutting costs.
Yeah.
So when we present that this year we profited X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars, next year we need to be that plus 2% or that plus 3%, and the only way to do that is to cut 3% off the budget safely. So we're like, okay, we just kicked all ass, and now we're being punished. It's like that's how I feel like this is probably under, where you have Arena. It's like, hey, amazing job with beta. You guys made X amount of dollars, which is phenomenal. So we're going to need you to do that plus this, because we feel that with more content and more growth, you guys are going to be even better. When in reality, a lot of that initial income came from people just jumping into the game to get their collections jump started. So people will buy the game or download the game, the free to play. They'll buy the starter pack. They'll dump $100 or they'll, for the gem package, and then they'll rock from there. And with millions of people playing the game, that's millions of dollars right off the hop. And then there's kind of a cooldown period. And I'm sure that the people sort of pulling the strings and pushing the buttons are like, okay, you guys got to figure out how to make these numbers again, because if we see a significant dip, then they're not stupid. They know when the numbers are showing up, but they're like, okay, we'll figure out how you can keep this up. And that is a scary thing to think about, because that's when you have probably things like this where like, okay, 2 to 1, and how does that, it's this giant connect the dots of how we get people to spend more money. well, they're not going to spend money if they have in-game resources. Well, how do we get them to drain their resources? And then it's a line connected to there.
It's a balance, it's a balance, and there are clear things like I think somebody said in chat earlier, like if they had done one of them, if they said historic cards would cost 2 to 1, or they said we're going to be adding in 20 to 30 cards every 3 months that are specific to historic, there would not have been as big of a backlash.
Yes, I agree in principle. However, which one of the two is a lot more egregious and probably a lot more riot-inducing than the other? I feel the 2 to 1 is what is really at the root of people's angst towards this decision.
If they kept 2 to 1 in, but then added in a feature that said, okay, we're going to keep 2 to 1, however, we're adding in a new feature called, I don't know, I can't call it a vault because they already have a vault. Anyway, a way for you to turn wild cards you have into wild cards of a higher rarity. You can turn take 2 common cards, and you get 1 uncommon 2 common wild cards, you get 1 uncommon wild card out of it.
Okay.
So
I can kind of like a trade-up system.
A trade-up system.
A 3 to 1 to sort of go up a level, and then 3 uncommons become a rare, and
just a way, because the biggest thing is like wild cards themselves, they're not dust, right? They're specific to a rarity. It's not a overall value to craft cards with. Like if a new rare comes out in historic and I fucking don't have rare wild cards, but I got 600 commons, like I'm gonna be pissed off because I can't.
Which is, I'm sure you're sitting at that point right now, right?
I think last I looked, I was like at 200 common, 300 plus uncommon, and then I have, I don't know, like maybe 20 rare and like 10 mythic. Like it's not a whole lot.
That's great. That is a lot.
Yeah,
20
I know.
rare wild cards is a lot.
Plus like 12 vaults or something I have. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. So you're sitting on a nice little stash.
If they added a way for players to actually turn unwanted wild cards into wanted wild cards, I don't think there would still be people like the old saying was, if Wizards put folded up $20 bills in packs, people would complain about how they were folded, type of thing.
Yeah.
There are still going to be people who will complain about it, but I don't think there would be a huge backlash against a 2-for-1 idea of, sorry, but we need to drain the wild cards in some way. Either we're going to like make everything cost 2 to 1 or make older cards 2 to 1. There has to be some way of getting rid of wild cards from players outside of just releasing new sets.
Would you ever, and I don't know about the legalities of this, so you can already see where I'm going with this, right? But I know if I'm going to talk about something, it's going to be with you about this. Would you ever do something along the lines or participate in a situation where there was an event, it's best of 3, or there's a mode, and it's a wager mode, where you wager a wild card or 2 wild cards or 3 wild cards, and you put, basically what you do is you play, and there's like open tables, let's say, and it's like, okay, this table is 5 uncommon wild cards and winner take all. Would you ever consider something like that? And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it is a way to generate wild cards, or it is a way to
play old school Magic, where we had to ante a rare at the beginning of the game.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I didn't even.
Look up a card called, I think it was Jeweled Bird. I think it was what it's called.
This? This sounds really cool. I'm talking more along the lines of they used to have this in what is it, like my gosh, Modern Warfare 3 or something like that, or Black Ops or whatever. They had a wager mode where literally you use your in-game currency, and you'd go into modes. It's like, okay, well, it's an 8-man free for all, and everybody kicks in $3,000, and then it would pay out the top 3. So that, I mean, I'm just literally curious about how this would figure into, and if like the only way that Magic would do this, I think, is if they took a rake off of it, which I don't think is going to happen. But like, still.
Right, I think a way to they have avenues to fix this and keep what they want. There are many ways to do this. One of them being a trade up system. Another one being fucking add wildcards in as rewards to events.
Oh, for sure.
Fuck, if I win a 7-game constructed event and I got a rare wild card, or 2 rare whatever, like, cool. You drain my gold every time I go in. It's 1,000. I'm gonna win what, 1 out of 3 maybe. They have avenues to do this, but I think they just didn't think before opening their mouth. They just were like, this is what we're gonna do. Hope it goes well. And then of course there are the people who are saying, well, they know that everybody's gonna be pissed off. They know they're gonna have to walk this back. They were hoping it wouldn't have as much of a backlash. So here you go, let's go for it. Ask for $1 million, and then they negotiate it down to 500,000 type of situation.
Right.
And I don't think, because companies don't really do that.
No.
Like,
well, one of the most amazing, like one of the best pieces of advice my father ever gave me. It was when it was coming out of university, and I applied for my first real job, and they made me an offer, and I remember talking to my dad, who has like years and years of business experience. Like he's I look up to him like crazy. He's a really smart man, and he told me, he's like, when it comes to negotiating, and he was a business negotiator for a long time. He told me, he's like the very basic rule is you ask for more and settle for what you want. He's like, never make it seem like you are prepared to make concessions. Like, ask for more and make that seem like what you want. And then when you look like a hero for taking less, it's actually what you want. And you're coming off as the hero in this situation. Because when you need to make concessions to move negotiations forward, you'll look like you're giving up what you never wanted to begin with, or you never had to begin with. And that might just be that's their tactic that they're doing now, right? They're completely comfortable probably with a 1-to-1 ratio, but if they can get away with a 2-for-1, why not roll it out there? Because they know that people are not going to exactly, tuck tail and run for the door when it comes to playing Magic. They're going to be playing the game no matter what.
Right. You're talking though, like negotiating actual business. This is a company that provides a product. They shouldn't have to negotiate with fans for shit.
No, and that's their position of power in this, is the fact that it's like, well, if you don't like it, then don't play it. And it's not even don't play the game, it's don't play this format. You're still going to spend money on the new sets that we drop every 3 months. So that's not going to change.
Right. And it's a like I said at the beginning of this, it's a giant elephant in the room. Everybody's like, what's going on with Historic? Do you want the format to die? And do you actually want people to play it? Is Arena supposed to be standard only? Because if Arena ends up being standard only and there's nothing else on it, the software dies. 1,000%.
Yeah,
it goes the way of Duels of the Planeswalkers, which that software died in a fucking year. Like,
I just don't see how. Like, it would be interesting if within its own ecosystem they create their own modern Arena, quote unquote, their Arena modern version, which was like what they're trying to create with Historic. But why not just open it up to everything that they already have programmed, like Kaladesh, Aether Revolt, Amonkhet, Hours of Devastation. I don't know why
Amonkhet and Kaladesh are not added. Like, I think there was a fear of, okay, we're gonna add back Amonkhet and Kaladesh, but we're not going to give anybody the cards back. They're going to have to rebuy them. And nobody's going to fucking buy them.
That would be You know what? That might have been why they didn't do it.
I
Because
guarantee you that's why they didn't.
they're probably like, okay, how are we gonna sell this to them when we say that you played these
You
cards
owned all these
before?
cards already.
These were in your collection, but they're not anymore. But if you want them, they're probably gonna be like, well, we don't have the data for it to really give bullshit. You don't have the data for it. You have the data on everything. I played one game of limited and you probably know my blood type. Like that's how fucking integrated the internet is. It's ridiculous. Guaranteed you have a stool sample from me somehow, and all I did was play standard. But what I'm saying is that that's probably why they're not doing it, because they're trying to figure out a way. Like this might be the first, litmus test to see how much the community freaks out about it with the 2-to-1 thing before they kind of drop the bomb of like, okay, well, we have a lot of good news for you. The good news piece number one is that we're gonna do 1-to-1 wildcards, which is gonna be good. We have 1-to-1 wildcards, and
We're gonna
we're
be adding
introducing
in.
we're adding in Amonkhet and Hours of Devastation and blah 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 and blah blah blah, and we're taking away the whole you have to buy blocks of 45 things. And people are like, oh my god, that's amazing! I have all these cards already. I'll buy a few packs here and there to sort of round out my collection. Oh, but by the way, none of it's
Yeah, we're not actually adding it to your collection. It's just there.
No. We know that you're aware of the cards because you've played with them, but they're gone. They're vanished. They don't exist. Rebuy them.
But
Like,
every card has its own style.
Oh my god! Get the fuck out of town with that. And that's what really bothers me is because it's literally okay. So here is a I guess this is Kaladesh. This is a Kaladesh Angel of Invention.
Angel of Invention.
I used to love to play Selesnya Angels, and before everything rotated out, this is what I played with. I almost have a play set of them. They're right next to me. Life is good. I own the card. Rotation happens, and it didn't just fucking snap away and disintegrate out of my hand. So why is it different with this? And I understand that some people in early beta were maybe given a lot more resources to play with to craft these cards, etc. It doesn't matter. That is the exchange that you gave them in order for them to play test your game and play the game and eventually get addicted to it and whatnot.
Right.
So I know that we're just inventing scenarios here because this is not an actual scenario that has occurred, but I'm just preparing for when they do release it and nobody owns the cards who have already owned the cards.
I think the best avenue for Wizards to take, if they're dead set on keeping this 2-for-1 for historic thing, they need to add in a trade up system. There needs to be a way for me to turn in the wild cards I don't want into the historic cards I do want, without fear of, like the scummy feeling of shit, I need one more rare wild card to craft that Wormcoil engine that I really want to play in my mono blue artifact deck for historic. Fuck, guess I'm buying like 10 packs of Throne of Eldraine and just hoping.
Yeah.
Like they really need to do that. But yeah, like when the first rotation happened, we lost everything. They did give us back I think it was 14 or 15 like staple cards for that rotation. Because they cleared everything. And they gave us back 4 Scarab Gods, 4 Hour of Devastations, they gave you back something. But that was just as a sorry, we had to do this type of thing. You're never gonna get that again, ever.
No, yeah, no. I think they're done being relatively generous. They're on the route of here is how we are creatively almost generous. Things like the Mastery Pass and whatnot, and the Mastery Pass is. I mean, let's be honest. The Mastery Pass
it costs you $5.
Yeah, it costs you some money, and it comes back in the form of let's be honest, a lot of what you're getting from it is cosmetic.
It's just cosmetics, yeah.
Right? And that's cool and all, and I get it. However, with these events that occur to get, colored or special art lands and whatnot, they need to do more things that, like you said, and I think that you're spot on when you say that they need to add in wild cards as rewards for
Yes.
certain events. Because gems are good. Gems, I think, are fantastic. That's great. Winning gold and whatever. But you want to be rolling your renewable resources into things that are not necessarily renewable, like wild cards. So you want to be able to roll your gems and your gold against the option of packs and wild cards. I think that if they drop the gems out of certain limited events and replaced it with like chances for wild cards, I think that is a much better thing, and that might actually have repercussions on their income as well, because they're giving away less gems but more wild cards, but now people can't necessarily earn gems to buy packs or mastery pass, so they might actually see a return in terms of cash money.
They could
in that way.
But the biggest thing is like you're attempting essentially to drain the wild card economy at a 2-for-1 rate, like, while not injecting the wildcard economy at a percentage of that. Like,
right.
This is a essentially a fully limited resource for your game that people have no way of getting outside of purchasing cards and packs from you. So the way it reads is, we just want more money from you.
Yeah.
But if
the presentation of it,
if there was a different avenue to get the wild cards outside of just fucking buying packs, then people wouldn't be nearly as mad.
No, because people are already so, like, they covet those wild cards like crazy already because of the fact that they're drained out so easily. For instance, let's just say, and it's not every day that a new deck sort of just sprouts out of nowhere that is completely out of left field. Like the Kethis deck is actually a good example. Let's say, I mean, the Kethis deck, and I don't know who invented it. I believe it was Elvin Cloud, and I want to give like a little bit of dap to him for that, because I remember the day he came into my stream one day and is like, I just came up with this really ridiculous deck. I don't know if he actually came up with it. I will trust that he did. And I also want to.
I made this smiley face.
Exactly. The I made this meme. Hey, look, I made this. You made this. I made this. I love that meme, by the way. I also want to. I know that we're famous for tangents. Here's another tangent for you. You are aware of the quasi duplicate reef deck, like the Nexus reef deck?
Oh my god, yes.
Okay, so that was a deck that was designed months and months ago by a Team Rankstar member. No Control was the initial architect of it, and then it was refined by Frostie. I can show you chat logs from Discord when they were like dating all the way back from like May and June for this.
Okay.
Like, easily that far back, when he's like, I have an idea, I've been playtesting this. So I can back them on this. The deck was featured on Channel Fireball as like, hey, check out this wicked cool deck. And everybody's like, yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing. And the person who wrote the article, and is it Andrea
Mangucci?
Yes, Mangucci. He was the one who wrote it, and he credited some other person who showed it and said, this is the guy who made the deck. Frostie from TRS tweeted at him, and Frostie had actually published articles dating as far back as like June and July about the deck, saying, hey, I actually am the co-author of this deck. I just want, I appreciate that you write about it and everything. I just, it'd be nice to be noticed and to be mentioned about it. And on Andrea Mangucci's stream, he said, you're absolutely right. Here's a tweet. Here's the guy. Here's his Twitch channel. Follow him. He's the actual creator of this deck. He made this wicked ass deck.
That's good on Mangucci for doing that.
That is awesome. That is fucking awesome. That shows ownership of whatever, and of mistakes, and actually giving dap where it is. That is really, really fucking cool that he did.
Mangucci's a cool guy.
I don't know how we got on this tangent. I honestly do not remember how we got on this tangent.
This is how the show works. This is how the show works, chat.
The Kethis deck. So every now and then a deck just comes out of nowhere, and the Kethis one was one like that. And when you want to make that deck, because it clearly was a tier 1 deck, it was a deck that sort of came out of left field and can really dominate a tournament when it was fresh and people weren't expecting it. Let's say you want to make that deck. Well, there's no fucking way that you crafted 4 Kethis. There's no way you had the 4 opals ready to go, and all the stupid, silly historic cards that went with that deck. So there's a good chance that if you wanted to make that deck, you're burning a hole into 10 to 15 wild cards just to make it. and you're like, do I really want to do this? And for the people who are playing casually or on the cheap, that is a big decision that you have to make.
Yeah.
Because for myself, I don't have that many wildcards left. So when I wanted to play dinos, but I'm like, I don't have I don't have 4 of these. I don't have 3 of these. I don't have this. I don't have the lands for it. I don't have that, whatever.
Like,
And
I have
that's
to
a tough.
craft raging Regisaurs? What?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, why are you fucking kidding me? A Regisaur Alpha and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that because
Yeah.
it's never going to play it. So you just get turned off from the entire deck in itself. So if there was ways, like you said, and I think that you're really, really spot on in that Magic needs to introduce alternate ways to get
Yes,
to
there
roll.
needs to be alternative avenues to get wild cards outside of just buying packs. We're at the point in the game's history, like, no pun intended for historic format, but like, we're at the point in the game's history where we are reaching that, like, something needs to give, like, something's got to give here.
Right.
You're gonna be releasing into essentially release mode. Your version 1.0 is going to be hitting the Epic Store. We're going to be getting, Lord knows how many brand new people to Magic that, may have heard about this game when they were a kid and then it's, coming back now or whatever. They're going to, take a couple looks at this and go, well, fuck. Yeah, I guess I'm either going to be spending a shitload of money here that I can, or I'm out. Of course, I'm coming from a place where I have a 100% collection. Like, I know I'm gonna be playing historic. I know I'm gonna be crafting all the historic cards. I'm gonna be buying the bundles. I'm gonna be pre-ordering that. I just fucking pre-ordered Throne of Eldraine last night. I own a shitload of cosmetics. I am not the person really to be saying, I should be saying, like, suck it up, like, too bad, this is how it is. No, it's not good. That's not how it is. It shouldn't be this way. If you're going to be taking something away from the economy, you need to inject a percentage back. It's just, that's how you keep a health of it.
That's a spooky thing to think about, is that when the people who kind of just dip their toe into the format, or not into the format, rather into the game itself, for the people who have, like, I know that I avoided playing Magic for years because I wasn't aware of a standard format. That's just my own neglect and not learning about the game in itself. Plus, I had other games to play. It wasn't a big deal. But I was just intimidated at the fact that there's so many cards and it's going to be expensive. That was the one thing that people told me is Magic's expensive. Magic's expensive. Magic's expensive. Now that there's a free-to-play version of it online, quote-unquote free-to-play, you could play for free.
Absolutely.
You can play for free.
100%.
Jumping into the game and somebody who really likes the game, I'm afraid of what they're going to have to, you need to either really fucking love the game, like if you really love the game, you might be down to spend $100, $150, $200 to be instantly into it in a set up for success. Coming in a rotation is obviously going to help because you can honestly just sort of snake into a smaller standard format, maybe spend a couple $100 to get a big collection. But at that same time, that's a big investment for something that a new player, someone might actually look into it. It's like, oh, you know what? I came in, I bought the starter pack, I opened some cool cards. I found this really badass card. It's called it's a wolf, and you can play it on your opponent's turn, and it's a wolf, and it has flash, and I really like it. And there's a bunch of other flash cards, but now now if I really want to play, I need 4 of those. I also need 4 of these things called breeding pools. I also need 4 of these things called Temple of whatever. I forgot the temple is.
The blue-green one.
Yeah, Temple
Mystery.
of
I think it's Mystery.
I need 4 of these, and I gotta craft those. And I don't have any of those. But if I want to buy packs, I gotta buy from this set, and this set. And I don't. Anyways, and they're like, you know what? Fuck it, not worth it. Let's go play something else. That is what I fear, and I know that is obviously a little bit of an exaggeration, and that is kind of it's me pressing the panic button for somebody else. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen for everybody, but there are going to be people who are immediately turned off by the fact that they just can't afford to be competitive right now, and they don't have the time to grind. And that's a scary thought process. in general, because Magic's an expensive game,
It is.
and with the way that it's set up now, you can be very aggressive in a free to play standpoint, but rare wildcards are, I mean, in my opinion, rare wildcards are worth more than mythic wildcards because
They
they're more
absolutely are
vital.
because of lands and certain spells
Yeah,
and certain creatures that, like, if you're going to be playing vampires, like, this has always been an issue in Arena, and it's been an issue in Magic since the beginning. But like, cards are not universal. Um, if I craft 4 Knight of the Ebon Hand or whatever the fuck the card's called, like, that's it. Like, I'm playing vampires, I guess. Like, he doesn't really
yeah,
fucking go into anything else. Um, you know, if I craft 4 Blood Crypts, I got Blood Crypt, and if I'm not playing a red black deck, then it's a fucking useless card. Um, and it's fine for that to happen. It's fine to not have a dusting mechanic where we can get rid of unused cards to create new ones, because Magic has way too many cards in general, in order for that to even be a thing. And you run into, again, the same problem of, all right, I'm going to buy 50 packs, I'm going to dust 99% of this, I'm going to craft the 4 cards I need,
yeah,
and I'm done. I'm no longer spending money. It kind of all comes back to, as a company, they have to decide who they're pretty much going to say, well, fuck it, sucks for you type of thing. The person who's going to come on from Epic Game Store and go, wait, this is way too much. Like, this is going to cost me, a couple $100 to even like try and get competitive. Fuck it, I'm done. Um, I personally don't think Wizards should really spend the time to be like, damn, how can we get that guy back? Like, how can we get that person back? That
well,
person was always just gonna say, fuck it, this is too much, I'm out. They need to have this is gonna sound so fucking egotistical, but the players like me, you, Nox, like our chat, the people who are invested in the game, though, you need to keep those people around and keep them spending money. Otherwise, your software dies. Like, new players will come in, and new players will come and go, but the people who are like fully invested in your game, like, yeah, you may have gotten the money out of me, but if I no longer want to play, like,
yeah,
that's a big hit, you know. Um, so it's one of those things where you just gotta they gotta really decide to give an extra avenue to players to earn their in-game currencies. You have to treat wildcards like a currency. It is the exact same as gold, the exact same as gems. It is just another currency for your game, and you're starting to take away from it. You gotta give it back a little bit, just a little bit.
no,
Keep
I
players
agree.
in.
I agree. And just to touch upon what you said, the reason why there's no dust system is because of the fact that there's like 85% of each set is
Garbage.
yeah, because people
Draft
would
fodder.
yeah, people would open packs, and like you said, it would just be like, all right, well, screw all of this. But they do have a quote unquote dust system in terms of a vault, but that is legitimately like the worst conversion rate of any. The fact that you're opening packs for one card now is what it is, because you're opening a pack in order to find whatever the rare is, because everything else is garbage. Like, everything else
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. It's percentage towards a vault, right? Like, that's basically
Yep.
what it is. Which at the end of the day, it doesn't really do anything for it.
I will say, Arena solved the problem that Paper Magic's had for the past 25 years. Buying packs is the worst value on the planet. Like,
Correct.
if you're like, shit, I need a Teferi, don't fucking go buy packs of War. Like, you're just gonna go to a store and buy it off the secondary market. Whereas buying packs in Arena, at least, like, get something if you don't find the card you want. It
Yep.
moves you a little bit closer to getting that card you want. It moves you, with the duplicate protection, with the gem return, with the vault progress. Like, it moves you somewhat, inches you closer to that card that you want. Now that you're going to be adding in historic, you just gotta go that direction too. If they even want to support historic, they could just want the fucking format to die on arrival.
I don't think they'd ever wanted to. I know a lot of people are saying that in terms of as kind of like they're shouting that out and saying, to be, I don't want to say to be dramatic, because they do kind of have a little bit of a point that if they do go down this route, the route, there's a lot of people who won't support it. But saying that, do you want this to die? No, they don't. Of course they
Of
don't.
course
They would
not.
not have. They've invested millions of dollars in terms of manpower and design, etc., to make this work. They don't want it to die. They want to get a return on investment.
Right.
So this was their presentation of the format's economy and what the content will be, and the reaction was, in my opinion, justified, because they're saying that they're going to give not as many cards as people thought, for not nearly as cheap as people thought, including cards that will make other cards irrelevant.
Yeah.
So it's like you're dicing the collection, you're charging us through the roof for it, and you're not expanding it to include everything we want. So you struck out. Those were 3 strikes, and now you are literally on the hook for this being potentially DOA.
Yeah, and a big part of that too was they made fucking emphasis on that cards that are currently in standard that will be rotating out will still cost the 2-for-1.
That's why people are now spending a lot of their wild cards for stuff that they think might be historic, relevant. Like people who used to play, God, I don't know, like what are like, let's say like a Vraska for an old school Vraska from like Ixalan or something like that. People might not have played it in the past little while, but maybe they're like, you know what, there's a really cool historic card coming back, yada yada yada. Maybe I'll do it now, and they go bang bang bang, they play it. Or fuck, I don't know, things that are rotating out now, like I don't know, Carnage Tyrants and stuff like that. I honestly, I'm just shooting names out of my face, but you're right, and that's kind of the panic that they might have set in, is saying like, oh yeah, everything from standard now as of this date is 2-for-1, so go fuck yourself, and if you want it tomorrow, you can get it for half price today. And think of it that way. That is like the kind of sneaky kind of marketing that they might be trying to ram down your face, is, oh, it's 2-for-1, but you can get it for half price today. It's like, no, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah.
It's regular price today, and you're charged to be double tomorrow. It's like, no, it's half price today and regular price tomorrow. Like there's 2 schools of thought on that, and that's kind of how they're going for it.
Yeah, I think. Let me throw this at you, and let me throw it at chat too, and anybody else listening. What if the announcement was, okay, we're going to be injecting 20 cards every 3 months into Historic. These cards, and these cards only, will be 2-for-1 wild cards. Anything else that has rotated out will stay 1-to-1. Would there have been as big of a backlash? Would there have been any backlash?
There would have been backlash. Anytime that you're charging more for something, I think that's already, because what you're saying is these cards are the way that they're marketing them is, here's a list of 20 cards that we have personally selected throughout the whatever to like, why would they choose them? They're choosing them because they're going to have an impact on the format, and they're going to have, so we have chosen these cards that are going to be, as far as we're concerned, all 20 are fairly relevant to the format. You want them? Everybody wants them, obviously, because they're going to have an impact, but they're twice the price. That is a little bit kind of shady. It's like it's like being the only gas station somewhere, so you jack up the price like 3 times as much. And I mean, I'm not saying that's outlandish, but at the same time, you're saying that this is something you need. You could walk to the you could walk the next 5 miles to the town and get it for cheaper, or motherfucker, you can just pay for this right now and drive there, and things will be great. And to me, the journey is Historic from bronze to mythic, and the gasoline is just the fucking cards that you're using to get there. And if they're going to say that this is the best and most efficient and most powerful and impactful way to do it, but it's cost twice as much, that's a little bit I don't say inappropriate, but you know what I mean. That's a little
It's rough. it's rough to hear. It's rough to think that way, where it's like, okay, you know these cards are going to be important to the format. You know they're going to be played. They're curated to shift the meta or create brand new archetypes, and you're basically going to be forcing me, quote unquote, forcing. They're not actually forcing you to do shit, but forcing me to pay 8 wild cards in order to get my 4 brainstorms type of thing.
Yeah.
But I still think, like, when I was reading through threads and reading through stuff on Twitter, I'm like, the majority of these comments are, you're making me pay extra for cards that I currently own. And I honestly think that, like, they could shift that just a little bit. You know, there's like I said, there's so many different ways for them to fix this and still keep 2-for-1 if they're dead set on having 2-for-1 wild cards. Like I don't think it's gonna stick. I think they're gonna change their mind. This has been a pattern with Wizards, with Arena over the past, year, where throw something massive at the wall. We're gonna remove all the free what were the ICRs, individual card rewards. We're gonna remove them. They're gone. The fucking everybody blows up, and they're like, okay, we'll add some back. Hey, fucking like everybody cheers, and it's like, well, what if they had just taken away 50% from the beginning? Would you fucking lost your shit then too?
Probably some people would have, and this is why this is a very interesting strategy. They're taking more than they need to take, and then they're going to settle on a concession, which people are going to be like, "All right, good guy, Wizards of the Coast. Actually, all right, we compromised. We won, guys. This is a victory for us, right?" Where in reality, Wizards of the Coast is like, literally what happened was like, we're going to take $100 from you. And people are like, fuck you, this is my money. And like, they're bullying you. And at the end of the day, it's like, all right, listen, we're just going to take $20 from you. You got us. And like, damn right, we fucking take $20. There you go. Get the fuck out of my face, Wizards of the Coast. Take your $20, get the fuck out. Meanwhile, $20 fucking poorer, and you don't know what the fuck just happened. You just literally had the wool pulled over your eyes, and you have no clue what. Yeah, and Wizards is like, fucking suckers, jerk offs. Like that. I don't truly believe that Wizards of the Coast is looking to specifically fucking put the screws to us at every point. What they're trying to do is they're looking for aggressive marketing strategies to increase their profits as much as possible.
Yes.
And this was one of them. It just so happened at a certain point that this one is particularly more egregious than the previous ones, and they're going to backtrack on this too. But I think this is the one that it's like they went from kicking us in the shins and flicking our ears to a full-on football punt to the balls, and we're like, okay, we know that you're going to apologize for this.
Hold on.
And yeah, you're going to apologize for this and pay the medical bills, but we still can't have kids now. So like, fuck you. Like, that's literally where it's come down to. Yeah, and that might be the last thing. That might be the full-on crescendo of my argument about this, was a metaphor about a football
getting
kick to the balls.
Kicked to the balls.
Yeah.
definitely an NA football kick.
Yeah. It could be both. It depends.
Or both. Yeah, it depends.
Yeah. If it was European football, though, I would be on the floor still writhing in pain. If it was American football, I would have gotten up and see the trainer. But that's just my own personal gripe about European football.
But yeah, it's an interesting discussion and argument, no matter. And like, I don't think anybody is on the side of the fence, so to speak. I think everybody is like, this is bullshit. But I think the discussion points of why it's bullshit changes like from person to person. And like I said, I think their best case scenario is they just inject wildcard in some other way, and people are like, oh, okay, cool. Like, like, I can earn more wildcards. I'm happy, Yeah. And that's that. But yeah, that's it's an interesting discussion, and I'm sure it'll come up again because we'll probably hear about it in another week or so. And we'll have more stuff to talk about next week, or actually not next week because you're going to be gone. Next time we meet.
Next time we meet, and I know that. So I'm going to be away on. I'm going to be traveling to Poland on Tuesday night, so in a few days, and I will be casting Gwent Challenger 5 live from Warsaw. So it's going to be It's going to be good, and the meta is actually fairly interesting. I'm very intrigued purely because a lot of the balances that have occurred have been very very effective, and the fact that the balances occurred like a week ago and the tournament is in a week, so there's been 2 weeks for participants to actually create and hone their decks. So it could be I don't want to say shit show, but it could be a complete wide open field of
It'll be
decks
interesting.
and strategies. Oh, for sure. It'll be very worthwhile to watch.
All right. Well, that's going to end up doing it for us, guys. Before we get on out of here, a quick shout out with my lovely co-host, Flake, my man.
Alrighty. So today's shout out always leads off with my very capable and handsome co-host Frosty. Thank you very much for that. You are the man, and you're also pulling the strings behind the scenes. People don't know that Frosty, at the same time, with a series of pulleys and levers and foot pedals, is actually controlling this entire broadcast. So that's good for him. And out of the chat, Wholesome Gaming is a awesome dude. I want to say big time ups to him for the shout outs and for watching, and everybody in the chat, man. You guys are the real MVPs, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, those are my shout outs this week.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching again. If you've missed any of this, it will be on YouTube probably by tomorrow, I guess, because today is Saturday. And then Blake, are you streaming at all today?
I am not. I
Okay.
do not believe so. So we will leave that up for possibly tomorrow.
Cool. Well, I'm also not streaming today. But again, if you missed any of it, it'll be on YouTube, and it's also anywhere podcasts are subscribed to. So if you're on Spotify or RSS feed, you can check that out. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time on the Frostie Flake Show. Have a good one. Peace out.